Peace and blessings. I'm your natural mystic medicine man, and I would like to answer a question today. And that question is: should we be smoking anything? Should we smoke cigarettes? Should we smoke herbals? Should we smoke marijuana in particular? Well, the answer to that question is simply it depends. If we're talking about cigarettes, then I would say absolutely, positively do not smoke cigarettes. And if you are smoking cigarettes, do everything in your power to get off of cigarettes. Stop smoking it as quickly as humanly possible. If we're talking about smoking herbals, let's take one of my favorites, mugwort, or to use the African American term, nayavi. If you're smoking mugwort, you're typically doing it so that you can enhance your dreams and improve or enhance your cognitive function. Well, the good news for you is you don't necessarily have to smoke it. You could take it in tea form. Anytime that you put fire to any of these plants, tobacco, nayavi, marijuana, you are activating dangerous chemicals and they're hitting your bloodstream immediately. And they could impact your brain and other vital organs in your body in a negative way. We know for a fact that cigarettes are not good for you. We know for a fact that they're cancerous. That's why we call them cancer sticks. We call them the poison nicotine weed. So no one should be smoking cigarettes. While lighting a fire to any of these herbs releases and activates chemicals, I don't think that there's anything based on my research, and I could be wrong, but again, do your own research and do your own due diligence. I don't think that there's anything that when lit, any plant that when lit contains more dangerous chemicals than cigarettes. Now, that's not to say that the other herbs, other than tobacco, are healthy when lit. But again, it depends on what your motivation is. What are your goals? You trying to open up the third eye? You trying to have prophetic and vivid dreams? Then yes, you can smoke nayabi. But the good thing about this, which people call mugwort, is that you can also take it in a tea. If you take it in tea form, then um, it's going to treat your insomnia. It's going to help you focus, enhance your cognitive function. It's going to wow, it just has so many benefits. It's a diuretic. It'll help you lose weight. You can drink the tea and get the same benefits of smoking without as many of the harmful chemicals. Now, of course, mugwort or nayabi contains tujone, and that's a dangerous chemical. So it doesn't have as much. It's not high. It's not as high in tujone as say wormwood, which some people mistakenly call mugwort, but that's because they're in the same family. I believe wormwood is Artemisia absinthium. Mugwort is Artemisia. It's in the Artemisia family, but it's Artemisia vulgaris. So they're in the same family. They have similar properties. So just like you can use mugwort, just like you can use wormwood to treat parasites, get rid of parasites and worms, you can use that mugwort for the same purpose. So I would say use mugwort because it contains less thujone. But even while using mugwort, you can only use it moderately. You can only use it sparingly. You use it to get you where you need to be. Once that third eye opens, and once that cognitive function is enhanced, then you can take it from there on your own. So it really helps to have someone that is spiritually gifted, spiritually responsible, spiritually experienced to help you through that process. With marijuana, it helps to suppress that cognitive function. And those that are totally driven by their crown chakra, they wouldn't understand why you would want to suppress your thinking. But if you study the philosophical schools of thought throughout the world, when you're trying to improve yourself, one of the things you have to do is quiet thought. Crown chakra driven people don't want to quiet the thought. They want to think nonstop. That's one of the things that prevents you from going to sleep at night. Thinking nonstop is like talking nonstop. When you're talking nonstop, someone may be giving you the answer, but you can't hear it because you're too busy talking. So, marijuana plays a role in suppressing the cognitive function, suppressing the thought. But of course, you don't want to suppress the thought too much. Again, should we smoke? The answer is it depends. If you're trying to be a raw food vegan, 100% raw food vegan, then you shouldn't smoke. There's many different, you can do your research. There's many different articles on what happens when you smoke marijuana, what happens to the brain. It makes it difficult to be 100% raw food vegan because when you smoke that marijuana, you need something heavy. You want something heavy, beans and rice. And you don't eat rice raw. You don't eat beans raw. You cook them, you soak them, and then you eat them, you know? So you got to be careful and you got to make sure that you are approaching these plants from a moderation perspective. Smoke if you need to, but don't become dependent on the smoke. Should we be smoking? If the only reason you're smoking is so that you can escape reality, okay, smoke. As I've heard someone say, it's not a moral issue. Smoking is not a moral issue. But if you're trying to be healthy, you got to be careful about marijuana. You got to be careful about mugwort and other plants if you're not growing them yourself. Because we know we live in a capitalistic society. And capitalism, as we have always said, stands for wealth over health. So the strains of marijuana that they're coming up with today, it's been said, have 30 times the amount of THC than they had 30, 40 years ago in the marijuana. So the marijuana that they were smoking is not the same marijuana that you're smoking today. So if you're not growing these plants yourself, you don't really know what you're getting. When you say you want mugwort, for example, we talked about that in IIV earlier, as it relates to wormwood. When you say you want mugwort and you go online to buy it, so they mix it with different plants. You may be getting wormwood because, again, people think mistakenly that wormwood is mugwort because they're in the same family. They're in the same plant family. So this is just going to be part one because we can go on and on about this topic. My position is if you have to smoke, don't smoke it unless you grow it. That's my personal position. So we don't smoke. If we're going to smoke, the only thing we smoke is what we grow. So I don't smoke marijuana. Why? I don't grow marijuana. If I grew marijuana, I may smoke it, but I'm not sure about these strains that are coming out. So even if I was to get some marijuana seeds, perhaps that strain of seed that I'm getting is some genetically modified strain, and I might not want to grow that. But I know that the so-called Artemisia vulgaris, Nayabi, mugwort that we're growing is pure. We're growing it organically. We're not genetically modifying it. It may naturally hybridize itself, but we're not doing it intentionally. We're not genetically modifying it. Anyway, this has been part one, and I've been your natural mystic medicine man. We'll talk to you real soon. Hopefully, we'll get to part two sooner rather than later. Peace and guidance.